Hi guys, Catmaster here with another quality video. I hope you're having an awesome pre-Christmas holiday season already. Path of Exile 3.9 has been released. We've been playing for roughly 10 days now, so 2 weekends of the league. And I want to give you a little bit of an overview of my opinion of the league so far. So I want to talk about the boss buffs, the Metamorph mechanic, and I want to talk about the new endgame mechanic in Conquerors of the Atlas. So before we go into this video, thanks everyone for tuning in. As I said, I hope you're having an awesome holiday season. If you like small independent content on YouTube, like mine, then I would love it if you were able to subscribe, like and share the videos. That helps me and other small content creators to stand a chance against the big corporations that YouTube is favoring. And next year we're gonna have a lot more development into that direction. So yeah, any support is appreciated, and if you've been subbed, I would also like you to ask to check whether you're still subbed, because I hear from other content creators that their subscribers have been automatically unsubscribed or YouTube forgot that they've been subscribed. So yeah, just a quick reminder, thank you so much. Let's go into the video, and yeah, so bosses throughout the entire game got buffed, right? Not only endgame, but also in the campaign. Bosses with lengthy introductions, such as the Brine King, take reduced damage for a short period of time immediately after they became targetable. So you can't front load a whole lot of mines or other damage and wait for them to spawn and then instantly zone phase or one-shot them even. And endgame boss HP goes up much more linearly with map tier than before, which means that instead of that big disparity between tier 15 and tier 16 maps, we actually have a slow linear climb, and tier 15 map bosses are much more comparable to tier 16 map bosses in terms of life. And also, throughout the entire game, enemies got more armor, more resists, and more life. And in the 10-act campaign, some bosses even receive what I would consider an almost complete rework. So we do have a crazy strong Mervil fight, we have a really strong General Gravicious, and Act 4 Piety with the beams and the pulsing balls and the explodey things. And yeah, that I think that one's really out of proportion actually, and I think that's my biggest criticism for these buffs, is that some things seem really not reasonable anymore. Like, Piety is so much stronger than Malachi in Act 4. Mervil in Act 1 is so much harder to fight than the Oversoul in Act 2. And also, they completely missed to change Rogue Exiles, Val side area bosses, Invasion bosses, and yet again Tormented Spirits, which, let's be real, have been irrelevant in the game for a long time now. And while I appreciate that GGG doesn't just go and make numerical changes, because they always want to take the time to look at something and decide what exactly it needs in terms of changes. Yeah, Tormented Spirits, with some things like Tormented Spirits, you just need a small numerical change. Tormented Spirits just really need life and animation speed in order to be up to date to the game. That's all they need. Maybe let them go through walls. But, I mean, the way that they're currently in the game, they just die instantly. And same with Rogue Exiles, Val side area bosses, Invasion bosses. Like, I like Rogue Exiles feeling scary, and Val side area bosses, let's be real, they're barely ever as tanky as the rares in the Val side area, which it feels weird. They're supposed to be scary. Those are supposed to be like higher zones than the zone that they spawned in, and it's supposed to be like a risk to go in there, a risk versus reward scenario. Right now it's just, I go into the Val side area, I run through it, I one-shot the boss, and I pick up my loot. So while I think on the whole the boss buffs are a step in the right direction, we need a lot more for it to feel good. But I also understand kind of that GGG cannot just buff all the enemies in the game at once, because then it just feels like a straight up nerf to your build. When you're not a very informed player, and you just play the same build as last league and you go into the game, you're like, damn, my build sucks now in comparison to before. So like, people also need something to hold on to where they can see, oh, actually my build didn't get weaker. So I think that maybe these bosses are coming next league, these boss buffs that I really still want. And yeah, it would be great if the Act boss progression was also a little bit more proportionally making sense, that the Oversoul is harder than Mervil, that Malachi is harder than Piety. Right now the 3 mini-bosses before Malachi are actually harder than Malachi. It's a little bit weird. But great change overall, on the whole, right direction, we just need a lot more. Metamorph. Metamorph is a fun mechanic. In the Metamorph Challenge League, you collect samples from monsters that you killed, and every sample contributes abilities to a boss that you can build yourself. The boss then morphs from one form to the other during the encounter, and in the beginning we actually had to pick up the samples ourselves for the first week, but within like 2 days GGG confirmed that the auto loot that everyone wanted so much, at least everyone in a very vocal minority on Reddit and on the forums, and it was patched in just last Friday. So when it was confirmed that we would get auto loot, I stopped engaging with Metamorphs, because at the same time I lost a character to one, and I was like, okay, let's just push the ladder and do Metamorphs as soon as the auto looting is patched in, because then it's obviously gonna be much more convenient, right? And I wouldn't want to do it now when I have to pick up all the stuff, when I know that in a week from now I don't have to pick it up. So I'd rather not waste my time with it. So some of the Metamorphs seem crazy strong, like a few. Most of them seem fairly easy to farm. After I've engaged with a lot of Metamorphing, I want to say I fought like, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 Metamorphs in the last 2 days. I'll get a bit better feeling, of course, for it once I interacted more with it, and once I interacted with it in red maps as well. But what I've seen so far, outside of a few scenarios, is really great, fun, and replayable. I personally didn't mind the fact that you had to loot organs, because I saw it as a kind of opportunity cost. If you want to have the choice between all the different organs that you could be picking, then you need to walk there and pick them up, and if not, then you just pick up one of every kind. I personally thought what would be much more appropriate would be a little display right about here where I am in the game, that would tell you which organ you already have, which one you still need, and how many you have, and which rarity. Right? Because right now, when you want to know those things, you have to click the button that spawns Tane, you have to wait 1 or 2 second delay until he spawned and it's actually clickable, and then you have to click him, and then you can see the samples that you collected. Whereas I think you should be able to see that with one glance at the screen. And I think that would have made it also a lot more enjoyable. Plus, we would have needed different symbols on the minimap for different organs. Give me a different symbol for a heart than for a liver and for eyes, and then it would have been an opportunity cost, it would have been a trade-off to, do I want another eye, so I have the choice to pick up another, like to put another eye in my Metamorph, or am I fine with the choices that I have so far? But without that, there wasn't really a choice, do I pick up the organ or not, because I don't know what, before I walk there, I don't know what organ it is from just looking at the minimap. And they didn't take space in the inventory as well, so there was really no point to having to pick them up. And I was arguing with Balor about this, Balor Mage, the guy I'm doing the podcast with. Great, fun podcaster, broadcaster, very opinionated. Love Balor, love a good discussion with Balor. But yeah, Balor was saying that there is no point to them being manually pick up, because they don't go in your inventory, and there's no inventory management involved, and there's no downside to picking them up. But I was like, well, the downside is having to walk there and pick them up. So I didn't mind it, personally. But the big problem I have with this, let's go into it right now, is that GGG is setting a tone for the conversation with the community here. And they've been doing that for a couple of leagues now, and they've also done that with Delve. It's like they released the league, and you have to think, like GGG plans these leagues for 3 months. They think about how everything is supposed to be before they release it. So when they make a choice like this, is this auto loot or not? I'm sure that must have come up in the offices. Do you have to click them? Are they items that you actually loot? Do they go into your inventory? Do they go into a separate thing? or do they automatically appear or something like that? So when they make a decision to not do that, I always think that the entire rest of the league is balanced around that decision and that there was a good reason that they made a decision like that. But when they're willing and able to change that within 2 days of release just because some people complain on Reddit, that makes me feel like they didn't think about it at all and they didn't think it was a great idea at all. They just went with it because they weren't willing to think about it, or they were like, well, we'll just adjust it as we go when the people tell us what they don't like. And that's a feeling I don't want to have, because I don't know, GGG doesn't work like that, right? They have design ideas and they have great design choices in their game, so I don't like those design choices being thrown out of the window when there's just a tiny little backlash on release from the community. I personally don't mind auto-looting. I like auto-looting in the game, I just rather have the league released in its final state. If they want auto-loot in the league, then just release it with auto-loot. If you decide to not put auto-loot in the league, well then better don't patch it while there is a 1-month race going on, and everyone who plays in the first week has a completely different experience than anyone who starts past the first week, because some essential mechanic in the game has been changed. That's what I don't like. With this mechanic, it's just really my gripe with the, how quick GGG is to make adjustments. And by the way, I love it that they read all the feedback and that they're willing and able to change the game. I just don't think that in this case, or in other cases, it's a great precedent for community communication, because when the next league is released and there's something that that rubs people the wrong way, that they maybe don't even understand because you haven't played the league for a week or two, then they're gonna change it again. And I just want to play GGG's game, and I don't want to play Reddit's game. I don't want Reddit to design my game. But I'll stop with that topic. Just a little downside about the Metamorph. Some things are very, very poorly visually communicated. So I know a lot of people have a problem with the red signaling in the Kitava boss fight or in Malachi, because everything's red and it's really hard to tell. Now, guess what? With Metamorphs, everything's black. You get like black ground effects that are like lumpy and overlapping with the ground, like 3-dimensional. But you also get black little volatile balls. By the way, Volatile Crawlers is the name of the mod. Pay attention to that. And these are ground-bound black little volatile skitters, and they actually explode like volatile balls. But they clip through the black ground effect, so they're literally invisible. And that's what I died to on my first character that went to maps. I think that that's a poor choice. Honestly, if you want something like volatiles, I don't understand why it has to be ground bound and black when there's black ground effects in the league. Then just make it red or yellow and let it hover a little bit like actual volatiles so you can actually see them and react to them. Because I don't think it's a nice challenge to like be overwhelmed with the visual clutter that is in one color. There's no like contrast, there's no there's no shapes. It's just a black mess. And then you die. And you're like, oh fuck, I should have seen that, but I didn't. I'd rather have something that's clearly visually signaled and very dangerous. I like dangerous league mechanics. I like a dangerous game, but I don't like those volatile black ball things in combination with the black ground effect. Other than that, there's some dangerous stuff with attack speed, so be careful if you ramp up too many attack speed mods, if you have attack speed on the map. I've seen people get pretty much one-shot by the tower map boss, which is the Brutus, who does the airborne thing and then slams on the ground. When he's in a Metamorph, he does that pretty fast and he does a hell load of damage, so be careful. But other than that, fun mechanic. A little bit sad that we don't have eyes and livers at the moment. I think since the patch on Friday, I found 2 eyes in total. So I did 2 Metamorphs in the lab. They were rewarding, they were fun. And the Metamorphs in the lab are a lot easier because there's no map mods. And they're a lot more easy to predict, I would say. But on the whole, very fun league. A Conquerors of the Atlas endgame. I personally got into the Atlas late. I'm still behind in progression. I'm enjoying the mapping a lot. There's plenty of random stuff happening in the maps. I love the 10% implementation of Blight. Every time I see Cassia, I'm super happy. Every time I see Legion, I'm sort of happy as well. The new Atlas is super fun to play. You can 3-for-1 any map within any region. Once you get to the Watchtower map, you unlock it. After you kill the boss, there is a portal spawning that you have to go through, and you have to click the altar. If you don't click it, you don't get the Watchtower on the minimap. So that's something to look out for, because I was missing 2 Watchtowers on my Atlas and I didn't know why I wasn't able to find them when I realized that I've been walking away from the boss after I killed it. And only on one instance I saw the portal, like, on the side on the map before it disappeared while walking away. Thinking it was a lab trial, actually, because they have the same symbol. Maybe give him a different symbol. But yeah, so I didn't find that, and I kind of messed up my progression because of that, because I wasn't able to find out where they are. But they seem to spawn on the same map, so if you just look at someone's Atlas, where's the Citadel, then you go just through the map, do the boss, and you unlock the Citadel. I did the bosses, the new bosses, the Crusader, I actually forgot all their names, but the Hunter is the most dangerous one by far, because it does a lot of chaos damage. At least for me, that is. I'm pretty sure CI builds don't have a lot of a problem with it, although I do think that he does some physical damage as well, otherwise CI would just completely trivialize it. The Warlord, I think, could be problematic. So the first time around, I did 2 rounds of the Exile Elder Slayer bosses. And the first rotation, when I did all 4, the easiest one was the Warlord, in my opinion, because he just died relatively fast. And the hardest one was the Hunter, because I didn't know the mechanic and I directly tanked the Degen in the middle of the arena. Second time around, Hunter went down pretty fast. I still don't think he was the easiest, but he went down pretty fast. But Warlord was the hardest, because he gets super tanky when he spawns his little totems. But yeah, that's just what I wanted to talk about. I did only fight them each of them once, so I can't really talk about their mechanics too much. They seem to be interesting and well-balanced fights. Sad that in this Awakener event there was some bugs with the Awakener boss fight, but I'm so far away that I'm not participating in the race this time. So yeah, doesn't really matter too much for me. I'm gonna get into the endgame bossing a lot more once I got my new character going, and I'll deliver a much more detailed video on this topic. So thanks so much for tuning in. This video is way too long. I just wanted to quickly give my opinion on the 3.9 patch. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day and Christmas.